welcome to another edition of the Husker Doc Talk podcast. Good to have you along. If you're watching on YouTube today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave your comments in the comments section, and you can tell us how stupid we are, because the truth is we are dumb every now and then. I'm Travis Justice. He's Dr. Rob Zadiska, who's on location today. You may notice the podcast looks a little bit different. It's because Dr. Rob is in a rocking chair in the state of Florida. What are you doing? Looking for your retirement house? Is that what you're doing?
I think we found a good one. It's pretty nice.
Did you now?
So,
how long have you been down in Florida? What are you doing down in Florida?
So we came down Friday night. Just came down. Our oldest daughter, we've talked about this a bunch of times, Florida State grad, and was on the rowing team down here for 4 years. And she ended up getting a job staying in the Tallahassee area. And so either my wife or I, one of us will try and buzz down a few times a year to hang out. You got beaches. You got great craft beer. There's a couple of amazing coffee places down here as well. So, yeah, so we're actually hanging out. We're in East Point, Florida, kind of sort of mid-panhandle area. I mean, we're probably about a good hour back east from like the Destin area. So, but it's a great little spot. There's great seafood, great places. Yeah, great places to eat. Amazing beaches. I mean, the beaches along here are outstanding. And I mean, it's mid-late October, and during the days, it'll get up like mid-80s still this time of year. So it's still, you can tell who the people not from here are, because we're the ones in T-shirts and swimsuits getting in the ocean, getting in the Gulf. And so, like, everybody else down here is in, like, hoodies when it's 80 degrees out. So I'm we're getting in the water.
Nice.
So it's great. Been crushing raw oysters like nobody's business, and
so you're enjoying life is what you should do. But you got there on Friday night, and over the course of time, this podcast is not just a Husker football podcast, but I think it's turned into an offensive line podcast. And Rob, we're going to jump right in on the offensive line, because we're going to talk about
throat right off the bat. Huh?
We're going to go for the throat right off the bat, okay? And that is this: we rarely call for somebody's job here, but somebody's got to be the fall guy. I'm going to ask you a question. In all the years, from Bo Pelini to Mike Riley to Scott Frost, now to Matt Rhule, and let's just use the Matt Rhule year number 3. What position group has not improved the way it should? I'm going to say it's the offensive line. Would you agree with that?
For a position that you would think from a developmental standpoint, you've got the same guy in charge of it. And I know Donnie, he's a great guy. The resume's there. We're just not seeing the development on that line like I think that you should see. And you got guys, there was that one sack where they had 3 guys rushing, but only the ends actually rushed. The nose guy just kind of held point, was sort of spying on Raiola in case he scrambled up the middle. So you had basically 2 guys putting on a pass rush. Corcoran gets beat like that. Barely gets his hands on the guy and chops his hands around him in a 10th of a second, sacks Raiola. And I'm sitting here going like, this guy's, what is this, his 6th year, 7th year? It's like he had an injury year and a COVID year. And you've got a guy who's been there for literally half a dozen years. And I'm thinking about the whole Tommy Boy line where it's like, a lot of guys go to college for 7 years. Yeah, they're called doctors. It's like, how do you be there for that long and get worse? I don't understand that. The line play on the whole in that game was absolutely atrocious. And it's not like you came into this game looking at – it's not like you had Minnesota circled as this, all right, here's the defense that's going to kill us. Here's the defense we really got to worry about. And early in the year, looking at the teams we're playing, at least for this first half of the season, the people I'm looking at Maryland and going, okay, they got some pretty athletic dudes on that defense. It's not a great defense, but they got a couple of athletic dudes who can do some damage. 1 sack. I'm looking at, then you got the Michigan game. And again, Michigan was one of those teams where I'm not sure I walked out of that going, okay, that was a surprise. That wasn't a surprise. Michigan's got some very, very good athletes on that defense. That is a defense that I expected to do to Nebraska what that defense did do to Nebraska. Zero surprise with that one. Cincinnati, very good defense. Their front seven, probably best in the Big 12, I think. That's a very, very good front seven that Cincinnati has. Great linebacking core. Again, you got the Corleone guy up front who he's basically like 3 D linemen in one body. Nebraska's play against Cincinnati's defense, that didn't surprise me. I expected Cincinnati's defense to do what they did in that game. It's not like you're looking at Minnesota and going, okay, God, we got to worry about these guys. That Minnesota defense, they're getting after it. It's not like it's Blitzburg from the early 2000s or something. It's kind of a very middle of the road defense in the Big Ten. How did they get 9 sacks?
9 sacks.
Now, and I had a Twitter post where, you look at those final stats, and I go and I'm like, okay, I know we didn't give up a lot of sacks in 94. I'm aware of that. And I also understand the whole fact we didn't throw the ball an insane amount. But, you go back and look, so I'm counting dropbacks here. So attempts plus the sack numbers, because they don't count a sack as a pass attempt. So if you're looking at those total numbers, that's 216 times that Nebraska dropped back to pass in 1994. That's not a small number. You got to keep in mind, we had 7 games of Brooke Behringer, who's a pro-style passing quarterback. And Osborne was like, all right, well, we're shifting the system to fit what Brooke can do as opposed to what Tommy does. And it was not a wholesale change in our offense. But, yeah, we're going to throw the ball a lot more if we got a pro-style passing quarterback with NFL chops back there. And that's what Brooke was. So we actually did pass not quite 20 times a game. It was about 18 attempts a game, which, for a team that was a fairly good running team, that's a fair amount of passing attempts each game. So it's, if you want to say, well, you ran the ball a lot, so giving up 6 sacks isn't all that impressive. Okay, let's just go by attempts. That's a little over 2% sack rate. On Friday night,
yeah,
that's what I think it was, a 28% sack rate.
Well,
so they're giving up percentage-wise. That's 10 times the rate. Let's not talk about total numbers. Let's talk about the rate. How often? How many times per drop back are you getting sacked? 1994, the number of times we gave up a sack per drop back, 2% versus 25%. I'd call it atrocious, but it's not. It's embarrassing. That's absolutely embarrassing. And I understand there's been games like Michigan State 1 sack, Maryland 1 sack, Cincy, 1 or 2 sacks, I think. But then you look at Michigan, you look at
Minnesota.
9 sacks. I'm kind of running out of words here.
Well, and this is what leadership is hard, and being a CEO is hard. And Matt Rhule is a CEO, and this is where nepotism comes into play, where it's so dangerous. I get why Donovan Raiola is the offensive line coach, because I think at the beginning it played a part of keeping Dylan committed or getting Dylan to commit to Nebraska. But the truth is, Rob, it ain't working. There's no other way you can look at it. It ain't working,
Well,
and he's got to go. I mean that position group is not improving at all.
and it's one of those things where you look at the guys they have, and some of this has to fall a little bit on recruiting. How do you not have somebody? And I mean, I'm thinking about, and excuse me, choking on my own words here. And again, I apologize for drifting back to the 90s, but it's kind of one of those, here's where I know the personnel because it's guys I played with. And I'm thinking about how do you go from an era where you've got Brian Borboom to Zach Wiegert to Eric Anderson, you got Lance Lumberg to me to Chris Dishman to Adam True to just Fred Pollock to just, there was always another guy. Somebody could get hurt. It's like I go out of a game, you're going to put Chris Dishman in there. Great. Here's another 10-year NFL guy, played with the Cardinals for a decade. How did we have, he's a freaking Cozad, Nebraska kid. It's not like we had to go raid some high school in Texas or Florida to find Chris Dishman. Cozad, Nebraska. Adam True, Lincoln Pius, Fred Pollock, Creighton Prep. We were all developmental guys. It's not
that's
like,
that's what I was going to bring up. You just said the key word, developmental. There's no development going on that position group right now. You can,
if Turner Corcoran or Gatula or Teddy or if Pritchett's spearing guys and getting tossed, you're telling me you've got no one else that can stop a guy. That's scary that you don't have somebody else that can step in.
Okay, but if you're not being developed to step in, that's coaching. Development is coaching. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't develop guys.
Yeah, and I've tried to stay. I like Donnie. I've tried to stay very judicious in how I look and evaluate them. But at the end of the day, and like I said, now here's the other thing. I've never gone down to practice and watched practice. I haven't. So it's from a judgment standpoint, I hate to pass judgment when I haven't been there to watch directly. So take anything I'm saying with that particular grain of salt. But the product on the field, the end result, you're not seeing. You're just not. And that should be a reasonable bottom line, I think. I really think that should be a reasonable bottom line, that when you look at this and you look at that end product on the field, can you say the job's getting done when we're almost giving up double-digit sacks a game? I mean, in a game. I understand we're not – it's like 1 sack 1 week, 7 sacks the next, 1 sack, 9 sacks. There's zero consistency here.
Well,
and you would like to see, I mean, if we were giving up 3 or 4 a game, I'd tell you there's a little bit of an issue here, but it's easy to point out what the problem is. I mean, that's the other thing. There's zero consistency here, but giving up 9 sacks is a problem. Giving up 9 sacks shows that there is a lack. There is a lack of an development. There is a lack of this bottom line product you want to see out on the field. We're just not seeing it. And it's at some point you got to say, like, okay, at some point you got to look at the guy running the show there, and that's Donnie.
Well, and that's why I bring in, you don't need to go to practice, because I don't know a coach that doesn't talk about, hey, how you play on Saturday is a direct reflection of how you practice during the week. A lot of coaches will tell you if they play like shit that, you know what, they had a bad week of practice. The truth is, practice is...
They'll tell you that, hey, this was a shock because we had this great week of practice. So, but yeah, and that's a good point. I understand what you're saying. I mean, I still try to not be judgmental here, but at some point you've got to point fingers and say either the recruiting's been atrocious or the development is completely lacking. Because I'm having a lot of trouble here based on my own experience, where I can look at the lines I played on and you'd lose a guy and it's all right, well, next man up. You lose another guy, next man up. I think it was in 93. We lost multiple guys to injuries. Brendan Stye, broken ankle. John Peterson, big center out of Grand Island, horrible ankle fracture. Steve Ott, starting guard on the 95 team. Steve had a bad broken ankle in 93. These were guys who are major contributors, major players on those lines in the early 90s. And you got guys getting injured. We had multiple injuries. We had somebody else who had developed and could step in, and that offense didn't miss a beat. I mean, we still ended up in the national title game that year. We lost to these guys by 2 points. But it's you had guys stepping up who were going out there and performing against Kansas State, performing against Colorado, performing against Oklahoma, when all three of those teams were churning out NFL D linemen, going out there and performing against Florida State, who had multiple NFL guys on the front seven of that defense. It's hard to justify not criticizing the coach at this point.
I'm with you. I think that's the only criticism that's left. You can only blame the players for so long till you go, okay, this position group is not getting better, and he's the only holdover from the Scott Frost era, and we know why he was held over. There would have been no other reason to hold him over.
I hate to say it. There's probably a reason he ultimately got selected by Scott even. They're recruiting Dylan.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean, well, I was going to say that in the argument at the time is like, okay, yes, but that doesn't mean he can't coach either. I mean, you got a guy who's an All-American offensive lineman at Wisconsin, had some good stops, spent a fair amount of time as an assistant O-line coach in the NFL. So you've got a guy with a reasonable resume. So you can say it's nepotism. You can say we brought him in to try and help get Dylan to Nebraska. But at the same time, the resume was there. The thing we're lacking now is now we're what, 5 years in?
Yeah.
To Donnie as the O-line coach. And I mean, you look at Teddy, you look at Turner. I mean, are you seeing development here?
No.
I mean, I think Lutovsky's playing reasonably well. And I say that, I mean, for us, I mean, as far as the rest of the O-line goes, I think Lutovsky's playing reasonably well. I think Evans is playing reasonably well. Spindler, although now he's questionable with what sounds like a reasonably serious hand fracture. So is he going to be able to continue to play? So you're taking out one of those interior guys. But I mean, if I'm a Nebraska opponent coming up, I don't care about the interior. That sack I described where the two ends rushed, nose guy just stayed on the line of scrimmage and spied Raiola. If I'm an opponent, that's how I'm playing Nebraska. I'm gonna figure out a defensive stunt to make sure the guards are tied up, the tackles are isolated, and I'm telling our DNs, our rush guys, our edge guys, pin the ears back every time, get after Raiola. If it's a second and long, if it's a third down play, pin the ears back and go, because you're probably getting there.
Yeah, I mean,
that's sad. The fact that I can say that is sad.
They had 36 yards rushing, so take away the sacks. Nebraska only had 100 yards rushing. You're not going to win many games in the Big Ten with 100 yards rushing.
No, although I thought Emmett played reasonably well. He had 4.5 a carry. At that point, I'm almost like, when you're getting sacked 9 times, screw it. Just hand it to Emmett 3 straight plays. If you don't get the first down, it's your best option. Live and die with your best option.
I think the frustrating thing about this game is I think Nebraska is a better team than Minnesota, and they made Minnesota look really, really good. And Minnesota's not that good of a football team. They're okay, but they're not that good.
Now, here's my other question. How much of this falls on Rhule or Holgorsen from a game plan standpoint, from an adjustment standpoint? It's not like you saw that first half and came out, because I got to be honest with you, I'm looking at that game and I'm going, okay, it's 7-6 at halftime. We've looked like crap. Let's go make a few adjustments. We're going to change how we're doing a few things. Let's come out in the second half and see what we can do. And it was just like, we came out in this third quarter, Minnesota puts together a 90-yard drive, chews up 8 minutes of clock, scores a touchdown, and the wheels fall off the bus. And the game was over. When I saw that 90-yard drive, again, we had a quarter and a half of football left, and all I could think is, we didn't stop them on defense. We're not moving the ball on offense effectively. I'm seeing 0 adjustments here at halftime. How much of that falls on Butler? How much of that falls on Holgorsen? That was an ugly game. Now, doesn't mean the season's over. You're 5-2. Every game's losable. Every game's winnable.
That's fair.
Look at Iowa right now. What's Iowa? 5-2?
5-2 and just beat Penn State 25-24.
Nice little comeback win over Penn State. And again, who knows where Penn State's at? We're going to find out when Nebraska goes to Happy Valley. We're going to find out.
But now, Rob, you lose that game, that looks worse. Penn State's sitting there at 0-4. If you lose at Happy Valley, not saying they're going to, but if you do, you start going, how did we just lose at Happy Valley?
Friggin' Northwestern came in here and won. So, which again, Northwestern just knocked off Purdue, and all of a sudden I'm looking at Northwestern. Well, we talked about this last week. Yeah, all of a sudden we're looking at Northwestern going like, okay, I'm a little worried about these guys. Do you know what Northwestern has? Pretty good football coach.
And they've developed players, right? Yeah. So this is where coaching is really making a difference. You brought up Matt Rhule, and I'm not going to buy this. A lot of people are like, well, this falls on Rhule because it was a distraction because of the Penn State job, all that stuff. I don't believe that.
You can't avoid that. I understand that.
But, do you think that was a distraction? I don't think it was a distraction. I think people want to come up with a justification in their mind just to say, oh, he was distracted. The players were distracted by all this talk. That's bullshit. That's just total bullshit.
Now, okay, I'll be the first to tell you. Don't think we didn't have distractions in the 1990s. We had the same distractions. We lived in internet didn't exist, but we lived in a media fishbowl. There's reporters following guys around campus, for God's sakes. And so it's like it was nonstop. And you had all the time, you had these little mini issues popping up. Abdul Muhammad goes home and gets shot. And the guy's minding his own business. It's South Central. People get shot in South Central. Abdul got shot in South Central. But you got that. You've got, the Lawrence Phillips thing happened in 95. That was the year after I was there. Everything that happened with, Scott Baldwin was that 91, 92. So you've got all of these things popping up. All the guys on the team, it's like, listen, they got girlfriends, they've got families, they've got school. There's always been distractions. There's always been media issues, media hassles, outside noise pulling your attention away. Was that with Rhule a distraction? Yeah, it is. Guess what? These guys can handle distractions. They do it every week of every season since the dawn of time. So, yeah, that was a distraction. Was it a we're going to give up 9 sacks distraction? No. Your job's to not be that level of distracted. Playing with a distraction, that's normal. Distractions are a normal part of this. So when you go out there on any given Saturday to play a football game, all of those coaches are dealing with distractions. All of those players are dealing with distractions. Distractions are not an excuse for that kind of performance because distractions are a normal constant in any sport. There's no take on it. So was it a distraction? Hell yeah. Is it a normal distraction? Hell yeah. That's a normal thing these guys got to deal with. And if that's what led to you giving up 9 sacks and getting physically beat on both sides of the ball.
Well, you bring up the both sides of the ball because we've picked on the offense a lot, who is also 3 of 11 on third down conversion. That's horrendous. But let's go to defense. They give up 186 yards on the ground. You mentioned that 90-yard drive. What did that take, like 8-9 minutes off the clock? Yeah. I mean, that was an old-school Big Ten drive. It was embarrassing to watch that. I mean, it was just so not just to pick on the offense. The defense was just as bad.
Our defense got 1990 Nebraska in that game is what happened. I mean, that was just an absolute grinded out drive. And that's embarrassing to see that. I mean, that's brutal to watch that happen. And Minnesota put together like several drives. I mean, they had the one quick 40-yard drive. You had the one drive where they went like, I can't remember how many yards in one, like they got it all in one play. But that was the thing that's kind of surprising to me when I look at it is that how close the time of possession was. Held on to the ball. They didn't do anything with it. I mean, you got 2 field goals. That's it. But they held on to the ball for, it was like a 29-minute to 31-minute time or 28 to 32 time of possession, which you get a little bit of a 4-minute advantage there. That is a little bit of an advantage when you start looking at it. I'm switching over to the box score here. And so, yeah, you look at what Minnesota did from a scoring standpoint. I mean, they had some nice drives in that game, but that 90-yard drive was just, that was a killer. I mean, when Nebraska punted, they get the ball down where they get it downed at, and you're thinking, all right, this is going to be good. We got this. We're gonna do well with this. So, I mean, yeah. So the one touchdown in the first half, 4 plays, 90 yards. I mean, and then you go to the third quarter, 14 plays, 98 yards. So I say 90 yards. The one in the third quarter was a 98-yard drive.
And how much time did that take off the clock? It was a lot.
It was 8 minutes and 43 seconds, so almost 9 minutes. So, yeah, they basically chewed through almost 2/3 of the quarter on one drive. But that was the drive. I watched that drive. They go up 14-6, and I'm just like, game's over. The TV announcers, one of them had a pretty good line. He said, talking about a game like this, and this is during the third quarter of the game. The announcer made the comment that in a game like this, you go up by more than one score, the game's over. Because people are moving the ball weight. Other than Minnesota's 4-play drive in the first half, it was just this grinded out. And kudos for Nebraska for not giving up like the huge play all that much in the second half to limiting Minnesota to these dinks and dunks and quick runs. But the fact that they couldn't stop them, they couldn't get them into a third down. I mean, it was first down, second down, first down, second down, first down, second down. that whole 98-yard drive. I think there was maybe, I'd have to go look at the play-by-play, but there was really only maybe 1 or 2 third down conversions on a 14-play, 98-yard drive. Nebraska couldn't even get them into third down.
Yeah, I mean, it was punch to the face, punch to the face, punch to the face. It was just like boom, knock them out.
Yards, it was the yards after catch, yards after first hit for the run plays. That's the other thing that was really surprising, the inability to bring a guy down at the point of impact. And that's something you would expect to see out of a Big Ten defense. A good Big Ten defense, you would expect to see that kind of impact where a guy makes a hit and brings a guy down. We have not seen that. And that's sad when you don't see that from a team like Nebraska, where you're looking at this going, okay, well, geez, you know what? We lost Tony White. We lost Terrence Knighton. But you got John Butler, who's a very experienced defensive guy. He's been around the block. You got a couple of other advisors, kind of the old sages on that coaching staff who've been with Rhule previously, who you would think there should be enough brain power in that defensive room to, again, make the adjustments needed to stop what, in all honesty, is a kind of a mediocre Big Ten offense. Again, it's like every year we do this with Minnesota. You're looking at their quarterback and their running back and going, why can't we get guys like that? And then you go watch them any other game and they look, sort of so.
Well, you know, there's a fine line between great and good. There's a fine line between good and bad. Nebraska is a good team. It's nowhere near a great team. Nebraska's a good team, but they're not great.
No, and we keep treading that fine line. Well, I mean, think of
on both sides. They can look great, but then they can look really bad. That's why I say they're a good team, but they can go either way and just not be consistent.
And that's one of the things we've talked about extensively the last half dozen years or so, is that this is a team that the margin for error is non-existent thin. I mean, there's almost zero margin here. You have a turnover, you're going to lose the game. I say that because then you look at the Maryland game. How do you throw 3 picks and win? How do you throw 3 interceptions? They score on all 3 of them. It's not like Nebraska threw an interception. It's not like Nebraska had a turnover against Maryland and stopped them. They didn't. Maryland scored on all 3. So it's, how do you give up 3 interceptions? They score on all 3 of them, and you still win the game. I don't understand how that happens with this margin of error, but this was a game against Minnesota where we saw that margin of error where any little mistake, any penalty, any missed assignment, any bad block by the tackles in pass protection is going to be a game changer. I mean, what happens?
Let me ask you this. In year 3, Rob, should there be that margin of error? I mean, that's a fair question in today's world of college football. Should there be that margin of error in year 3?
I would say no. Or, I mean, I suppose the question is, in year sorry, I'm sitting outside in Florida. It's kind of warm and muggy down here. Are we sitting in a situation here with this particular team where were they actually that bad? They were so bad that we have seen improvement, that we have seen that margin widening out a bit, where, you got a little margin for error now. Have we seen that happen? It's just we were so fucking bad.
I don't think you were that bad. Even under Scott Frost, look at all the 1-score losses. I mean,
and that's the thing that kills me is, like, we've turned into that team where again, it's I don't want to look at the schedule and go, yeah, all of these games are winnable, but all of these games are losable. Okay. I'm trying to be. This is a little bit joking, but I'm kind of serious here. That's Iowa right now. That's what Iowa's been for the last 4 or 5 years, since about 2020-ish, 2019, 2020. That's University of Iowa football. It's like, you know what? If special team shows up, if we can avoid penalties and turnovers, we're going to win it, and it's going to be a one-score game. Otherwise, we're going to lose, and we're going to go home with our 7-5 record and be happy. I hate saying it's Iowa football, but you know what? That's kind of Iowa football. That's what we've been, is not in terms of style of play, but in terms of bottom line scoreboard performance. How are these games ending? Now, granted, this wasn't a one-score game. For most of the Minnesota game, that was basically a classic Nebraska one-score game that we couldn't pull out and weren't going to. And Minnesota things kind of broke at the end. We gave up a late touchdown. We ran out of time. They kick a field goal for that final margin. But it was basically a one-score game through the better part of 3.5 quarters of football. I hate calling it a classic, but that was a classic Nebraska one-score loss. Chalk it up with all of the others that we've been watching since the Scott Frost era, which was just the previous head coach. I understand that. But we've got, Scott came in 2017. We're coming up on almost, a year or two shy of a decade of these constant one-score losses. So maybe we weren't that bad, but if we weren't that bad, then my question rolls back around to, okay, where's the development? And there's two kinds of development. There's development over time. There's the season-to-season development, which we've probably seen with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama, where they looked bad and caught off guard game 1 against Florida State. And they've now rattled off, I think yesterday, that win that Alabama had over Tennessee, I believe was their 5th straight ranked win. They've got 5 ranked wins. All of a sudden, I'm looking at the SEC, and I'm going, God, Alabama's the team to beat. LSU just took another loss. Alabama's already beat Vanderbilt. They beat Tennessee. They've already beat Georgia. It ain't going to be Florida this year. So you're seeing this overtime development from last year to this year, where this year's Alabama team is a different animal. And I don't think anybody wants to go play Alabama right now. Right now, I hope Crimson Tide fans are looking at Kalen DeBoer and going, okay, maybe we did get the right guy. Maybe this is our guy. Maybe this is the next Nick Saban. And you got a guy in Kalen DeBoer who, you look at his history coming from the Dakotas out to Washington. He had some stops in between, I know, down to Alabama. He's always been a developmental guy. He's a guy who's going to build teams, and he's going to do it within a year or two. And you've seen that wherever he's been. And now they've got 5 straight ranked SEC wins. That's kind of impressive. So you get guys who develop over time. You also see in-season development. A month ago, we were looking at Northern Iowa and going, no, I'm sorry, not Northern. I apologize. We were looking at Northwestern. Sorry, I was thinking Missouri Valley football there with Kalen DeBoer. You're looking at Northwestern, and you're going, God, this is a bad football team. Well, guess what?
Well,
they've got a couple of nice wins and all. I think I got to check their record. They're what, 4-3 or 5-2 now?
They're 5-2. And you're talking about development. Do we really know if Matt Rhule can develop a football team? We know he can make a quick change.
That's his thing.
But has it? Just hear me out. Look at his record against ranked teams. It's not good. It's worse than James Franklin's is. And James Franklin got fired. He went to Temple, left quick, went to Baylor, left after 3 years. We know he could get it to a certain level. We don't know what that development was and what he could do long term. I like Matt Rhule. I think he's a perfect fit for Nebraska. But, on Monday, he had a hell of a lot of leverage. I don't know if he has as much leverage now. If I'm Troy Dan and I'm going, how much do we want to invest here? How much do you want to renegotiate a contract, create a big buyout, all this stuff? I think you have to see what the long term of Matt Rhule is. We know what the short term can be, but you don't know what he's never proven a long term guy.
I mean, his longest college stint was Temple, and that was 4 years.
Yeah.
He had back-to-back, was it 9 or 10 win seasons, his last 2 years at Temple.
That's Temple.
Yeah, and I get that. And I guess, so my question is, are you saying if Penn State comes knocking, because here's a question. Can Penn State get Cignetti now? No, I don't think so. I think Kurt Cignetti, who's now the third highest paid coach in college football. Think about that. Indiana all of a sudden had this influx of cash and by the way, was a playoff team year one, most likely going to be a playoff team year two. This is what's going to drive. It drives Nebraska fans nuts. I think it drives most fan bases nuts. Like, if you can do it in Indiana, why can't you do it anywhere? I think Kurt Cignetti says, screw this. I can go to Penn State and have these maybe some unrealistic expectations, or I'm making a shitload of money at Indiana, and I can keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm 64 years old. Knock off Oregon, whoop Nebraska's ass.
Yeah.
You really only got to worry about Ohio State.
Yeah, they don't play.
They got beat soundly by Ohio State last year and still made the playoff.
Yeah. So I look at it. I mean, do you think Kurt Cignetti goes to Penn State? I don't. I think he stays right at Indiana. They've made his deal sweet.
I think it'd be stupid for him to leave.
I mean, they're going to build a statue of the guy.
He's shown he can win there. And he did it quick. Oh, my gosh. That's what's crazy about it. It's like that was a fast turnaround. Now, so here's my question, though. There's certain guys out there. And my question is how many Nick Sabans are there? How many Kalen DeBoers are there?
Not many.
How many Urban Meyers are there? I think Ryan Day's a very good coach. It's hard to judge Ryan Day because, if you want to talk about a school that has resources, there's a school with resources. There's a reason that you went from a guy that averaged almost 10 wins a year in John Cooper, and you fire the guy winning 10 games a year to go to Jim Tressel, who wins a national title and wins 10 or 11 games a year. Idiotically, rules now. I'm like, you ever think Jim Tressel's sitting around going like, our guys paid for tattoos with bowl game swag, and that was against the rules?
It's crazy.
And I understand he didn't report it, and that's why he got fired. He knew about it and didn't report it. I understand that's the why he got fired. But if I'm Jim Tressel, oh my God, I'm pissed at history.
Well,
but you go to Jim Tressel gets fired. I'm throwing out the one Luke Fickell season there. You go essentially straight to Urban Meyer. National title, 10, 11 wins a year. Urban steps down. You go to Ryan Day, national title, 10, 11 wins a year. It's like at some point you do have to look at it and go, I understand. Great run of great coaches going from Cooper to Tressel to Urban to Ryan Day. But at some point you also got to look at it and go, that's insane that's insane resources that school has to put those coaches in a great position too. But I mean, how many of these insanely good coaches are there?
There's not many, and
how many Bob Stoops are there?
There's not many, and that's why I think Matt Rhule is the perfect fit for Nebraska. I think culturally, I think from a relations, from a fan, I think he is the perfect fit.
Though, and that's
yes.
Now a question for me, because I'm looking at this Nebraska team, and I'm going, okay, from the on-field product that we saw in 2023, the on-field product we saw in 2024, to the on-field product we're looking at now in 2025. How big a difference is there?
Not much. Not much.
So now my question is what kind of development are we actually seeing? I mean, look at Iowa. I'm looking at the Iowa team that started this season to the Iowa team that beat Penn State. And I understand Penn State's a train wreck. They're a dumpster fire right now. I mean, within the scope of who Penn State is and has been the last few years, they are currently a dumpster fire. So my question is, but still, they've got good athletes, and Iowa beat them. And now Iowa's 5-2. Do you want to play Iowa right now? I don't. Iowa held Indiana to a one-score game.
And they were leading late. They were leading late.
I don't want to play Iowa right now. I'm looking at Iowa. I'm looking at Northwestern. I'm going, these are teams that 2 games into the season, all I could think was, well, there's 2 wins for Nebraska right there. And now I'm going, these guys are developing, and I'm not sure we are.
Yeah,
that's concerning.
You bring up a very good point. How much has this team developed? And don't mistake talent. I think this team has more talent than it did in 2023. But don't mistake talent for development, because you still have to develop talent. Great talent has to get better when it gets on campus. And I would agree with you. I would say it's not a wide margin. It is a very thin margin. And that is the concerning thing. And we're seeing, you mentioned Iowa. Iowa has gotten better. Northwestern opened up with a horrendous loss to Tulane, but all of a sudden you're going, oh, man, this team has confidence. It's getting better. It's developed, and it's always been a development.
Up to work.
Yes.
Well, look at Minnesota. Minnesota's 5-2. I mean, 5 and I understand Nebraska's 5-2. I get it. That's not a bad record. I mean, there's a crap ton of 5-2 teams right now. I mean, from like 17th, 18th in the nation to like the 60th ranked team is splattered with 5-2 programs. So the question is, and the concerning thing to me is I made the comment earlier already. Look at the rest of Nebraska's schedule. Can you point to anybody and say that's a surefire win? And you cannot. We could win out. We could lose out. Now, let's say Nebraska wins out. We finish 10-2. Well, then I guess my comment would basically be, okay, Michigan, I think, legit athletes. There's a reason we lost to Michigan. You can take the Minnesota game and say, all right, here's your one-off. Sometimes you show up and the juice just isn't there. You think you're going to be fine. It's just, God, sometimes the stars don't align, and we toss the Minnesota game as a fluke loss. It was a bad performance by everybody. It's just whatever reason. Maybe it's the Friday night thing. Maybe it's the surrender whites. I don't know. Well, let's toss that shit. But I don't think we're going to go 10-2. I don't think we're going to rattle off 5 straight wins.
Yeah, I
mean,
you've got right Northwestern, now, you've got UCLA, you've got USC, you got Iowa. Who's the other one on there?
Penn State.
Yeah,
USC, UCLA, Northwestern, Iowa, and Penn State. I I mean, I look at that and I'm thinking, I got to be honest, right now. I mean, my preseason prediction was 8-4, 9-3.
You went 9-3.
Right now, if we get 2 more and go 7-5 and make it to a bowl game, I'm kind of doing a.
Yeah, but you know what? I know why the bowl game was big for Nebraska fans last year. Bowl game now is nothing. A bowl game means absolutely nothing.
I think fans are going to be disappointed if we just make it to a bowl game.
I would agree.
But I think there has to be a bottom line that you can do a well, thank God we at least did such and such. Right now there needs to be that, or I shouldn't say needs to be. I think there is that, and that's making a bowl game again. That's going 6 or 7 wins, because I'm looking at the next 5, and every single one of those games I could see going either way.
Yeah, and of course, Northwestern coming up. Before we get to that, a quick reminder that, you got games coming up. You got basketball is now underway. They had their exhibition game the other night. You've got volleyball still in full swing. That team's looking incredible. You need to be decked out in red, and you get all your red at Husker Hounds, 2 locations in the Omaha area. Of course, the Superstore over there at 84th and Center. I know our good buddy Scott Strunk, who owns Husker Hounds, is up at the Minnesota game. He's the biggest fan I know. He's with them thick and thin, and he wants you to stop by Husker Hounds and pick up your big red gear. Of course, the holidays are coming up. Halloween's coming up. You can actually get Husker Halloween decorations. You can get your Christmas gifts, all sorts of things at Husker Hounds. You got one store at Lakeside Plaza. You also have the Superstore, and you can buy online at huskerhounds.com. That's huskerhounds.com. So make sure to visit and mention the Doc Talk podcast when you stop by. Just walk by and say, hey, Dr. Rob told me to come here. Travis told me to come here. Let them know that you heard about Husker Hounds on the Doc Talk podcast. Also, when you need legal representation, make sure to check out our good buddy Connor Orr at the Orr Law Group. He does it all. He's got a group of lawyers that can handle almost any one of your legal situations, and he's an all-around nice guy. Even though he's a ginger, we'll let that slip a little bit. And you know what? If you really want to. He is a hockey guy, former goalie. Just to let you know, if you want to get on his good side, walk in. You can do one of 3 things. You can talk Husker football with him. He'll talk to you all day long about that. And I don't think he's going to charge you time for that. If you bring up the Doc Talk podcast, you won't be on the clock at that point. You could talk UNO hockey with him because he loves UNO hockey, and you can talk Creighton basketball with him. So go ahead and sit down with the. He is a J-sker, and we let that slide because there's a lot of J-skers out there. But orlawgrp.com, that's orlawgrp.com. Real quickly on Northwestern, Rob, they shut out Purdue yesterday, 19-0. I think shutting out Purdue is impressive. Purdue's not a great team, but
there's a team I wish we had on our schedule right now. That might be one of the few teams I'd look at and say, here's a winnable game for sure.
Yeah, but they have a new coach, a different offensive scheme, but not to score and to hold that team scoreless is impressive to me. I feel sorry for people who have to play at Northwestern. It's literally playing on a high school field right now. It was weird watching that game. I'm like, there's only like 3 rows of stands. I mean, only Northwestern can get away with that in Big Ten football. It's bizarre to me.
I mean, I think the final product's going to be nice. Yeah, Northwestern, 5-2. Who'd have thunk?
Yes, I didn't. When they lost to Tulane, I'm like, oh, this is going to be hard to recover from. And now they've come back. I actually think Nebraska beats Northwestern this weekend, but I've been wrong before, and I could be wrong again. But I'm not putting it in the.
Northwestern, they're like the junior Gophers. They're that team that Nebraska plays that what was that? 6 straight wins by Minnesota over Nebraska?
6 straight wins, and they haven't won in Minneapolis since 2015. And I know everybody, Adam Carrick, our good friend of the show, was like, don't pay attention to the all-whites. All I could think about was Dr. Rob and the all-whites. He hates them. Never, ever, ever wear all-white uniforms.
Well, and supposedly they said the reason they wanted to wear all-whites was to redeem the last time they lost in Minneapolis wearing all-whites. And I'm just like, what was the tweet I had? It's like, you don't redeem a bad loss in all whites by throwing up the surrender flag again. Come on. It's like, I understand it's total superstition. I understand this is about 75% tongue-in-cheek joke. But really, how many times do they put on those all whites and win? It ain't often. It's happened. They've got a handful, but it's rare. But anyway, hey, let's go back to that Northwestern Purdue game.
Okay.
Northwestern, 50 rushing attempts. They averaged 4.6 per rush on 50.
50.
That's a
you know what's going to happen.
Stat, and it shook time of possession. It was almost a 40-minute time of possession in Northwestern's favor. That scares me because I'm looking at that going, that's a developmental program. They don't have a horrible offensive line. If they come out and get 3.5 per rush against Nebraska and they rush it 50 times, they're going to hold on to the ball for 40 minutes and they're going to win the game. If that's the model they use against Nebraska, that 98-yard drive that Minnesota had for their first drive of the third quarter, shoot up almost 9 minutes of clock. If Northwestern comes out and can do that against Nebraska, 2, maybe 3 drives in the game's over and we're going to lose.
Damn, Rob. You just bummed everybody out who's listening and watching this podcast.
I'm just saying, if we let Northwestern do what Minnesota did, we're going to lose the damn game.
And right now, isn't that the game plan? It's not like Nebraska's great at stopping the run anyway. I mean, that's going to be the game plan you're going to see it against Iowa. You're probably going to see it against UCLA. You're probably going to see it against Penn State.
Yeah. The one team that surprised me in that regards was Michigan, because I thought Michigan was going to line up and nail us for about 4 or 5 yards a carry the whole game. And they didn't. They got 1 yard, 2 yards, 1 yard, 2 yards, 78 yards. Michigan had 3 big, long touchdown runs. That was it. Outside of that, Michigan didn't do much on the ground. That was a 3-play game against Michigan. So I don't think Northwestern's equipped to do that. I don't think they've got the athletes to do that. They do have the personnel to lean on you and go and get 3 to 4 yards a carry for 50 attempts. And if they do that and they get 3 or 4 yards a carry on 50 attempts, we're going to lose because they're going to chew up clock and Nebraska is going to have to hopefully put together 2-minute scoring drives and actually score every single time.
Which I don't know if they can do that.
Which means Nebraska is going to score. Well, I think if Nebraska scores 3 touchdowns, we win the game.
I don't disagree with
that.
I
think it's going to be like a 21-17 kind of game. And I think Northwestern's going to have the ball for 35, 40 minutes unless Nebraska can figure out how to stop somebody.
Well, let's use the Michigan State game as an example. Michigan State seemed to beat itself in making crucial mistakes. I don't think Northwestern is going to be an undisciplined team to where it beats itself. I mean, if it gets in a close game, they're not going to fold under pressure. At least that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is when you look at these teams, when you look at Nebraska, man, Nebraska shot themselves in the foot a few times against Michigan State, several times against Maryland. Still shocked we won that game. So you gotta, I'm talking about if Nebraska can score 3 times, stop Northwestern like once, and not have a killer penalty, not have a killer turnover. Again, our margin for error is this. So if they give up that margin of error with turnovers or penalties, that's how we're going to lose that game. So, yeah, I'm not saying we're going to lose the game. I'm saying if Northwestern does what they did to Purdue. If Northwestern does what Minnesota did to Nebraska, we're going to lose that game. And our margin for error is just, it's razor thin right now. 1 or 2 turnovers, we're going to lose that game.
Before we get out of here,
it's going to be like that rest of the season, by the way.
Before we get out of here, you're wearing your Florida State shirt, but you're doing that because your daughter went to Florida State. Also, you're in the state of Florida right now. The hot seat is getting really hot for Mike Norvell. Florida State lost.
I don't see him surviving this year. You thought last year.
Yeah, then he went and hired Gus Malzahn. He went and hired Tony White. You thought something. They opened the season against Alabama with a win. You're thinking, okay, this has changed. Dude, right. You lose to Stanford. Stanford's bad. They are not a good football program right now. That's embarrassing. I worry that, I think that staff gets fired. And I like Norvell, and I do think he's a good coach. I mean, I really, really do. I'm not sure what happened, how the messaging got lost going from 2 years ago where they probably should have been in the playoff. I understand with the injuries to Travis at quarterback, how that kind of killed that season in the eyes of the playoff committee. But that's a program that it's kind of lost its way right now. Yeah, and I don't see Norvell in a win now era where, again, people, I mean, that's the problem when you look at a Kalen DeBoer or Kurt Signetti, where you see these guys within 1, sometimes 2 years, they're turning or returning teams to power. That's what people want. And it looked like Norvell had kind of built Florida State up to that point, and then over the last 2 years, it's just crashed and burned. And it's an ugly crash. You know who else is crashing is Clemson. Dabo Swinney, they lost again yesterday, and he said going into the season, this is always the dangerous part, is that this was like his best team at Clemson. Well, that team is an absolute atrocious dumpster fire. But even Norvell and Dabo Swinney, this is what I don't like, and we saw with James Franklin. I don't like these big. If you're Troy Dannon now, you got to be careful on what kind of buyouts you give for people. If you're any athletic director, stop giving these guaranteed mega buyouts because they hamstring you in a different world of college football. Go ahead and pay people up front. Give them a big salary. I get there's big money there. Don't become just locked into 15, 20, 25, $50 million. It's fiscal irresponsibility.
It is, but here's my question. Can you keep a guy without doing that?
Where else are you going to go? I mean, the truth is, if you have a Power 4 job, most of them are pretty good. You're not – I get Penn State's in a different world. I get that Alabama, but there's not that many great jobs that you're going to go, I'm going to leave Nebraska for Mississippi State. I'm going to leave Nebraska for Auburn. You're not going to do that. Right? I mean, if you're in a Power 4 job, Power 5 job, Power 4 now, you're not going anywhere unless it's one of those great jobs that is out there.
Yeah, but I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, I really questioned Kalen DeBoer leaving Washington because I thought that was a good fit. And my question was, you're leaving a Big Ten job to go to a super high pressure SEC job. I'm not sure I want to do that. But on the flip side, how do you keep a guy? So,
well, I'll look at you. What you don't know is, did he like living in Seattle? Did his wife like living in Seattle?
They might have hated it. So
yeah, and Alabama is one of those unique jobs. I mean, there's only a handful of unique jobs. And Alabama would be that unique job. I don't think Nebraska's there.
Yeah, if you're a really competitive guy, you want to see if your system's going to work there.
And not only that, And the great thing about Nebraska is you're not dealing with a professional team. You're the only game in town. That's why it's a better job than Washington. If you're up in Seattle, you're getting lost with the Mariners. You're getting lost with the Sounders, for Christ's sakes. You're getting lost with the Seahawks. You go to Alabama, you're getting lost. You are. It's Auburn. It's Alabama. It's college football.
Yeah, if you're in Washington, if you're at Washington, you've got to deal with the Oregon fans are all right there too. So
100%. So that's why Alabama is a better job than Washington.
All right, devil's advocate question for you here.
Okay.
When we're talking about good jobs, does that matter anymore when you're looking at the dollars and cents involved?
Rob, here's the deal.
Is it a case where, like, you're going to go, like, for James Franklin, I thought he was a great fit at Vanderbilt. I was kind of curious how that was going to play out in Happy Valley. But does it matter when you're going to walk away with $47 million?
I can say this now.
Who cares if it's a good job or not? Who cares if there's pressure or not? Who cares if the fan base is atrocious? Who cares if you don't like living in that location? It's $47 million. It's generational wealth for your family. Your grandkids are set for life.
And that's why you can't give these big guaranteed contracts. You say, hey, if we fire you without cause, you're going to get 50% or whatever.
You're seeing teams sign people to them
because they're desperate. Because they're desperate and they're stupid. Now, I will say this. What is a good job? Bill Snyder proved that I think any job is a good job because the people make the job what it is. Bill Snyder made Kansas State a good job. Curt Cignetti in 2 seasons has made Indiana a good job because he's winning there and they have financial support, and now they've reached an expectation that's going to be expected moving forward even after Curt Cignetti. The job is what you make it. So I could say if you're in the Power Four, any job's a good job. Vanderbilt's a good job. They're winning right now. Hell, they beat LSU yesterday. Every job, it comes down to the people who run it. Right? The people matter the most, and there's just a lot of freaking money being thrown around right now, which is crazy.
I just had a thought. What happens if the NFL comes knocking for Curt Cignetti?
I don't think he takes it. I don't think he's an NFL guy, but that's me. I don't look at him as.
Okay. Did you think Steve Spurrier thought that he was an NFL guy, or Lou Holtz, or Urban Meyer? Or Matt Rhule. None of these guys are NFL guys.
Well, and rarely does a college coach go and be successful at the NFL ranks. That's why I don't think you're ever going to see Matt Rhule go back to the National Football League. Curt Cignetti was at Elon, and he was at frickin' James Madison. He's not going. He's 64 years old. He is now king of the campus. He ain't going anywhere.
One would think. What happens when an NFL team shows up with $20 million? Because guess who's got money? It's the NFL.
That's true.
College athletic budgets are big. NFL's got NFL. Like if colleges are millionaires, the NFL's billionaires.
Though I think Cignetti likes building a team, and I don't know if he like answering to a general manager, because after 2.5 years, you're gone. Then you're 66, 67 years old, and colleges go, well, we're only going to get you for 4 or 5 years. I mean, I look at the 8-year deal he just signed at Indiana. That's it. You get to 2033, and the guy's going to be done, and they're going to put a big old statue of him out in front of Bloomington.
Which, now, by the way, I'm playing devil's advocate here with all of this. I look at Curt Cignetti, and I go, he's a freaking idiot if he ever leaves Indiana, because, I mean, a big step backwards for him at this point is going to be 8 or 9 win seasons. And even that, I think, I'm not sure we're going to see that. I think he keeps punching out double-digit wins on a yearly basis because I think he's a very good coach. I think he's a very good recruiter. Here's the other thing. He's a guy who understands the transfer portal and understands how to use the transfer portal. You mentioned he's got to answer to a general manager. You're right. He doesn't want to answer to a general manager because I think in Cignetti, you got a guy who's a great coaching mind. He's a managerial mind too. There's a guy who can look at the managerial side of stuff and he can go, I know how to move these pieces around. I know how to go to look at the transfer portal and look at dudes like his current quarterback and say, okay, here's a guy that will fit in our system great, will perform. If Dylan Raiola, if we fire Donovan Raiola and Dylan jumps in the transfer portal and goes, I'm out of here, I'm heading back to Georgia, or I'm going to go to Ohio State. I don't think Cignetti goes and signs Dylan Raiola. I don't think he fits their system. I don't think he fits their style. I don't think he fits their mentality.
And yeah, I would agree with you on that. You just thought of a conversation I want to have next week, and it follow the Northwestern game, and who knows how that turns out. But when you throw all your eggs in one basket, and Nebraska threw all its eggs in one basket with Dylan Raiola, is that a good thing? Because we could go a whole hour on that probably, but hold that thought because we'll hit it next week.
I'm going to tease it. There's still TJ.
That's fair.
That's
guy. Fair.
I'm not saying he's the guy, but they got a guy who sorry, I made you turn the music off.
No, I got it.
There's a guy there. We'll dive into this next week. But the question is do we pull the plug on the Raiola era and say, okay, you know what? Great kid. By the way, I love Dylan Raiola.
So do I. I think
again, this is devil's advocate discussions we're having here. Great quarterback. Dylan Raiola is not Nebraska's problem. Now, if you want to say Dylan Raiola is a cultural decision-making issue in the sense that we had to hire his uncle to be the O-line coach, and that's not working out to the detriment of everybody, including Dylan.
That's what I meant.
You can say Dylan Raiola is the problem if that's your logic. Dylan Raiola's play on the field has not been Nebraska's problem.
And that's what I meant.
Dylan Raiola is a great quarterback. If you've ever met him, great guy. He is
100%.
Highly intelligent, super, super nice kid, high-level thinker, awesome quarterback. I'm convinced he'll be in the NFL. That's not the problem.
And that's what I meant.
The solution might be, from a developmental standpoint, for Nebraska to take an overall step forward, might have to move on from the Raiola era, and we see what TJ Lateef can do as a starter. Now, that's a lot of ifs. That's a if we fire Donovan. That's if Dylan goes, okay, if Donnie goes, I'm going. Dylan may sit there and go like, listen, I understand it. I understand it's a business. I understand what's happening. I'm staying at Nebraska. That might happen. You don't know. We'll see what plays out.
There it is. Final parting words from Dr. Rob Zatechka. Make sure to visit Husker Hounds. Make sure to use Connor Orr when you need law advice. And we'll be back next week with another edition of the Husker Doc Talk Podcast. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening, everybody.